Hey everybody, this is Armijo, ChatArmijoCoaching.com. It's a little gray outside today. You can see a little sunlight coming in behind me here, but we've got a lot of snow coming in, so it's usually really gray and it'll be warm. But we're supposed to get about 3 feet of snow. It's close to a meter of snow, I guess, if my conversion is correct. So today I wanted to talk about the media and why it's so effective, especially with baby boomers, okay? So Roger C. Schank, he was this cognitive scientist, and he wrote this very profound quote from his studies, and I'm just going to read it for you. He says, "Humans are not ideally set up to understand logic. They are ideally set up to understand stories." So humans are not ideally set up to understand logic. They are set up to understand stories. Just think about that for a second. So our cognitive abilities aren't set to function off of logical type of thinking. You know, of course, there are those outliers. We've got the Albert Einsteins and those Elon Musks and those people that are very logical thinkers, but stories seem to resonate with the majority of the people. And what does the media do with us every single night? It tells us stories, right? And those closer to my age range, I'm kind of that Gen X millennial bridge there, but I probably identify closer with the millennials. We didn't have the same upbringing that the baby boomers did, right? And so to a lesser extent, some of the Gen X as well. But baby boomers, they were raised on nightly news. You know, they would kind of go to sleep, eat dinner and have that television on to watch the news, right? And so they're grasping these stories over and over again. And it's been conditioned into them as they wake up, you know, they grab the newspaper, they're reading their all the news that's going on and drinking their coffee and eating their breakfast. And it is become so ingrained in them that the news is gospel for them, right? So the news is something that you don't question. It's something you've been taught not to question. And so baby boomers, the majority of them are very, very immersed in this. And so the reason that is because they're being told stories. And those stories are very gripping, right? Oh my gosh, we had an explosion on the freeway. We had, this house collapsed over here, or 3 people were stuck under a bus, or whatever it is. They're very, very catchy stories, right? People have been wired to go to those negative stories, to the stories that really kind of trigger this anger, frustration, hate, fear, all these things that the media is really good at selling. They have done very well, especially with the baby boomer generation. Now we see the difference that has happened. Gen X and millennials, we had the internet growing up, and we started to get tired of the TV. We got tired of commercials. As soon as we had, YouTube initially didn't have commercials, or very little. And then we had Netflix, and we had these things come along that said, we don't have to watch commercials. We can just kind of pay our way around those things. And so we said, okay, we're done. We turned off the regular TV, right? We turned off the regular news media. It didn't hold the same answers for us. And so what did we do is we did what we do best is we went online and we tried to find answers for ourselves. Now, before you go thinking, yes, there's a lot of junk out there on the net, right? There's a lot of stuff that is false or fake or whatever you want to call it. But yes, it's out there. And so what millennials and a lot of millennials, not everybody, a lot of millennials and Gen Xers have done is they've been able to practice discernment. So they're a lot more engaged in understanding how things resonate with them, right? And so, the media on the news can say one thing, and as we watch it, it's not like we're automatically going to believe everything that's told to us because we use discernment. And so a lot of that comes from inner intuition, right? And this sounds like some hippy dippy BS, but that's what happens with a lot of us. And so, if you've ever gone down a dark alleyway trying to take a shortcut, and then you get that bad feeling in the pit of your stomach, that's discernment, right? That's saying, okay, it's time to go. We're listening to our gut. Let's get out of here. So we kind of use the same thing on a different level. When we're reading a story, sometimes it resonates with us, and sometimes we say, no, it doesn't sound right, doesn't sound correct. There's something wrong, something off about this. And so we use discernment just slightly differently than the baby boomers, And so we don't take things, we just don't buy into things right off the bat. We have to go and research it. Even before we go to the store, we don't do this so often these days, but before we would go buy a new television or that new stereo system, first thing we did was hop online, find reviews about it, get other people's feedback, trying to see what truths are in the marketing and what issues we may need to worry about. And so we've always kind of done this in our own way. And so millennials, even to a bigger extent, they've just kind of shut off the TV. They've kind of said, we don't want these negative messages. We don't want to hear the negativity that's going on. And so as we go through this pandemic, we look at what the media has done really well, and it's really sold a lot of the baby boomer generations, maybe the older Gen X generations, on fear. It really sold them on fear with this pandemic. Now, why do I say that? Am I disagreeing with what's going on? I don't disagree that there's something out there. No, I don't. But do I disagree at the severity of it? I might have some questions there. Because if we really were to take what the news media, the traditional mainstream media, is telling us, we would really be looking around in the cities and there would be people dying in the streets, or crawling around like zombies because they're so sick and so ill. But that's not the case. That's not what's happening. And so if you go and do the research, if you go and do your own research, even if you go to the main World Health Organization website, right, we find answers that don't correlate with what we're being told. And so that's where I have questions. That's where a lot of these millennials have questions. Here's the other part of it, is that baby boomers are in their retirement years, and they're in those fear status because they want to go out and they want to enjoy retirement. Well, they're failing to understand that the millennials and the Gen Xers are still trying to live. They're still trying to create a living and trying to support families and support themselves, and to pay their bills and to do these things that make it difficult when everything is shut down. So I think there's a better way, is what I'm saying, that there's always a different way to do things. Now, do I have the answers? No. But do I think there's another way to do things that we can salvage our economies and the livelihoods of younger generations? Yes, I do think that. While still protecting the older generations? Yes, I do protect that. I do believe that, right? And so what we got to understand is these generational gaps are very profound, right? And so something that is very prevalent in one generational gap, one generation, such as the baby boomers, it may not be as prevalent or prevalent at all in the younger generations. And so we have to stop and look at things from that different perspective, right? We have to understand that we are being told these stories from the media. We have to understand that the stories we are being told may or may not be 100% correct. And we have been so conditioned to believe that the media is telling us the truth, but we fail to recognize the media has changed very much as well. Now there are only 6 major media companies. I'm sorry, they're all major media companies in the US are owned only by 6 corporations. And so this is something that you can go and Google to verify. It's there. There are only 6 corporations that own the media news outlets. So we've already been conditioned to, stories about these big corporations' products may never have hit the news media. So we're out there buying some tainted food or some messed up product, but we'll never know because the news is controlled by these corporations. And so just think about that. Think about how much control these corporations have over us and how these stories are being delivered to us. Okay, just use your discernment is all I'm asking, to think critically and to understand that we are not wired to think logically, but we are wired to think through stories, right? And so these parables, these stories that are being told, are they for our own good or are they not? Many people right now who are hoping the government's going to help them are the same people that before were saying, I never trust the government. They never act in your best interest. But the media's got them to turn around and believe and think differently. Okay? So that was kind of my quick take on why the mainstream media works so well, especially with the baby boomers, because it works by telling us stories instead of giving us logical examples, right? All right, my name is Chad Armijo with ChadArmijoCoaching.com. Be sure and pick up my new book on Amazon, Wake Up and Recalibrate. Hit that like button and subscribe. I will see you on the next one. I love you all.